Okay, getting the very interesting. I think there's some new features inside of Discord this morning that I don't know how to use yet, so I won't use them yet. All right, we're gonna go live. We're all set. All right. So let's see. So those of you who are watching on Twitch, you'll be seeing the intro card here. Introduction to Game Programming, Summarizing and Studio Days. We are in the home stretch here, folks. We are definitely in the home stretch. Let's see. Let's see. So for those who are keeping track, keeping score at home, as they say, we are now at what? What's today? Today is the 21st. The 21st. And the last day of classes is, in fact, the 29th, which is next Wednesday. So we have today, we have Friday, and we have Tuesday. So we have basically 3 classes. 3 classes to go. You should all check in. If you haven't already gone over to LMS, I have posted grades there. I think for the 99% of folks, there is a grade there for them now. There's still a few folks that we're trying to kind of track down and see where they're at. There's still some issues in terms of people making the transition to this online learning stuff and kind of tracking them down, figuring out where they are. Unfortunately, very, very, very few. So the 90% plus, everybody seems to be on board and doing the right things. So you will notice typically what's gone on in most cases that your performance on your first 2 projects has probably continued. So if you did well in the first 2 projects, you probably did pretty well in the 3rd project as well. Again, most of it, some people have had some issues with regards to transitioning to this new online do-it-at-your-own pace kind of world, but we're going to hopefully get through. So as it is in game development or any other project, there's always crunch time. I always get nervous now if I see people as what they sort of have to accomplish in the last week or so. But people always do tend to amaze me and come through, and especially in this class because it should be something that you enjoy doing. It's not kind of a grind of stuff that you just don't enjoy doing. So hopefully this is in fact stuff that you do enjoy doing. So we'll try to get through it. Now, this is interesting. I think I am live. Oh, okay. So I could turn on my camera now. That's what that is. So I could turn on my camera in here, which I don't want to do. I got a little confused. All right, so you'll find also in a lot of your GSAS classes, especially your project-based classes, that sort of the tradition is the last few sessions, the last few classes are what we call studio days. Sometimes they're intermixed throughout the rest of the semester as well, but a lot of them is, we've covered the topics because we want to see you use the topics, excuse me, use the topics in your projects, and we don't want to be introducing lots of new stuff that's going to take you a bunch of time to get into your last project. So I'm going to be mostly not, there's not a lot of new lecture material. So if we go into lecture notes, there really is no new lecture material beyond where we were at with in terms of the animator and tile mapping. We introduced some of the tile maps, joints, cameras, effectors, and things. They've all been introduced. There is a lot of videos online, especially now. If you do go over, and I posted some links here, if you wanted to start from scratch, start a blank Unity project as a 2D game, or just create it as a blank scene within your project that you've already submitted so we know where we're at, you can literally follow through and get to a point where we kind of have this, at least the beginnings of, or hopefully, a reasonable little platformer level in a game, and show some, camera movement techniques. There's a bunch of videos I had on YouTube from last semester as well that are a little bit more advanced in terms of, triggering camera points or kind of orchestrating in cinematography a little bit. Um, so there's lots of resources in terms of the videos. I'm going to put those up there, the playlists, and certainly there's lots and lots and lots and lots of Unity tutorials out there anyway. So if you want to check out some of those as well, that's cool. So there's a lot open. So with regards to Project 3, I've had some questions. Project 3, Project 4. Some people have kind of stalled a little bit on Project 3, or what their submission was and so on. Didn't really cover all the bases. So the question is, with regards to finishing up, do you need to have a separate Project 3 and a Project 4? Do you have to build on Project 3? Or can you start a new Project 4? And the answer to all those is sort of yes. Or no. Well, no, the have to parts is probably not the yes. You certainly do not have to build Project 4 on top of Project 3. Don't have to do that. Okay, so if you're done, if you got 100, if you got, basically, 90 or above, an A on the platformer, or excuse me, on Project 3, don't feel that you have to use that as a basis for your next project. If you got below that, you probably have some techniques that you still need to cover that weren't really covered well in the previous project. A lot of the feedback I gave to people was, about, well, did you use animations? Did you try to use particle systems? What happened to your scoring system? So there's going to be sort of some specific area that you just haven't quite gotten to yet that I'm going to want to see. And you can either kind of build that and some of these new things into your Project 3, or, say, well, okay, I'm going to kind of move on to Project 4. So it's sort of up to you. All right, so it's mostly the feedback that I've given you directly on your Project 3 will, kind of give you the foundation to say, okay, should I keep working on that one and fill out my, the requirements and concepts in that one, or do you feel confident moving to the next game and just kind of, move rapidly advance in there? Okay, you certainly can use tile maps, you can use effectors, you can use joints, you can use moving camera in a RPG top-down sort of game just as well as you could use them in a platformer. The big difference between the platformer and the sort of top-down RPG is really the effect of gravity and some of the character controls. So I really wanted to give people a feeling for the very two different kinds of camera control. One which is more or less entirely input driven, subject to some physics, but more or less input driven in terms of moving the character around on the screen in 2 dimensions X, Y, moving around in like our asteroids game or our asteroids or an RPG style game, versus the kind of control that you have in a platformer, which is more you have direct control of one axis, left to right, or the horizontal usually, and you have more like an indirect control of the other axis, which is your sort of jump and fall sort of thing. So looking at my little Bayat games here, you'll see that, for example, I have let me do this. Hopefully it's not just going to crash on me here. Had some issues today. All right, there we go. I'm going to maximize here. So in my game, I have my little character here, and it is an animated character, so I wanted to see people, do use animations, and specifically, hopefully you're using the animation state controller. All right, that's something you're going to see in a lot of games, this kind of finite state machine, whether it be in the Unity engine or the Unreal engine. They rely on those state machines and transitions and so on to do a lot of techniques. So that's why I'd like to see you do animations and do something with basically the state machine. That was the bigger question. All right, so we have our character here, and obviously I don't have the same level of control in terms of up and down as I do left to right. Left and right is kind of a very direct one. And then up and down, I have this sort of jump or fall kind of issue. You see, I got lucky and I killed or at least got rid of that block guy over here. So that's really the point of kind of looking at these two different styles of games. One where the player has a very direct control of their motion, and the other one where there is a combination of indirect and direct control. So for those of you who haven't actually watched the YouTube series yet, yeah, I tried to make this a little bit fun. Oh no, he's gonna fall off. Yeah, oh well. The end of the world there. So it's to get a feeling for those sorts of things, and also let me talk a little bit about the effectors and joints and things like that. So, for example, right now most of the enemies and things in this game are kind of this is using inheritance. We have the basic enemy, this guy in the middle here, just moves left to right, and then we have another version that inherits from that behavior but adds this rotation. And we have another version that inherits from that behavior and adds this fade, as well as this capability of, you'll see this one and this one, that probably knocked me off the end of the world, shouldn't have done that. They do have physics on them, but they do not die, or they don't disappear. So if I get that one, I can actually interact. So there's another behavior that has been overridden. So we can see that there is on those enemies, on my saw, my mace. So let's see, let's go to the scene here. Here's the mace, here's the saw, and here's the Mac 128, which is just the default. And they all, the first one has a basic enemy. So you'll see very, very simple example of inheritance here. I'm not using much in the way of AI in this. So the enemy behaviors here, these are really just obstacles that are inheriting. So maybe these should be called obstacles. So the first one just has a simple basic enemy created. And then if you want to look at the next ones, you can see we have the saw enemy, which adds this rotation and inherits from the basic enemy. So that's why it moves left to right and then gets this new behavior, this update, right? If we looked at basic enemy, it does not have an update function. It only has this coroutine. So that's why it moves left and right through a coroutine, not through the update function. Whereas saw enemy now provides an update function and inherits that coroutine. And then the mace enemy, it has inherited the coroutine and the rotation by inheriting from the saw enemy. And then it decides, all right, we're going to override, and this is, I'm doing this in a little bit of a I'm bypassing. I should be neat in here and put the override and the virtual kind of in here. You can get around those. Normally when Unity does things, the reason we just see start, even though it's not, we don't see void virtual start or override start, because hint, secret, C# doesn't require you to do that, but it is better to actually do that, because now you'll see it's warning me that I'm just doing it without being explicit. Anyway, so I've overridden the start routine here, but I call the basis start so that the normal coroutine gets started, and then my new coroutine gets started. And so I've added another coroutine, and then I've also added that sort of death behavior here, or that destroy behavior. If anyone collides with this particular block, it gets destroyed. All right. So even though this is kind of a simple, really, really simple game, it does demonstrate a bunch of things, right? Now, continue. I'm going to add a few more videos demonstrating some camera motion stuff in here, and one of the later ones I'm going to provide, one of my favorite techniques is using some of these joints. So let me show you imagine we have in here, we have enemies, and there's different types of enemies. And let's see, is the 256, 250 are the larger ones? I can't find, oh, the new enemies. No, 2x, there we go. There is, where did my preview go here? New enemy, okay, the mace preview, which is this mace that swings from a chain. And if we look over here in mace preview, I've already got it located in the scene here. So we have this mace that's hanging from a chain. And if I double click on that, you'll see the object here. And I've put a hinge joint on it. so that in the scene, now as things bump into it here, you see it's kind of non-ideal, but here, as things bump into it, it causes them to swing because they're on this hinge joint. This is a really, really, really simple hinge joint with a collider at the bottom and a hinge pivot at the top here. And a more exciting, interesting example would be going through and creating a much more elaborate, what looks similar, but is actually a far more elaborate version where it is made up of individual objects and lots of hinge joints to allow that chain to really be a chain. There's not a video up yet of that one. So this is, I wouldn't necessarily refer to this as totally basic, but it's fairly basic. I'm going to put up a video of that eventually if you do want to try that one out. Okay, so I won't ramble on too much more today with this one because there are lots of materials up there for you to watch, whether they be the Twitch streams or the new playlist over there. And I want to give you time, this is supposed to be studio time, to go ahead and do that. Contact me directly through the direct messages if you have any questions. So in general, for now, of the bunch of you that are tuned in, please do go ahead and type any general questions about here, and I will remain, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remain connected. I'm going to momentarily stop some of the video streaming, but I'm going to stay connected to listen in on the audio, or if you want to type anything, and give everyone a chance. So I'll pause for a moment to answer any sort of questions. And if you have a question, oh, okay, when is the project due again? The project is due basically last day of class. Okay, so the last day of class is Wednesday, just like so this way we can kind of make it due Wednesday again. However, the big thing to worry about now is I want to be able to make sure ahead of time by the weekend that you have correctly shared whatever project. If you're going to build on project 3, fantastic, because I already have access to all those. If you're going to build on project 4, we need to make sure by Friday that you've checked in with me and that I definitely have access to your project on Unity Teams. Okay, because I don't want to get into a situation where I'm tracking anyone down next Wednesday at the very last day saying I can't find your submission. Okay, the cool thing here is that with Unity Teams, you can set that as, ahead of time, and then you can submit all the way up until I need to grade your project. But we're considering that next Wednesday at midnight, I can find it. So ahead of time, it will be available. Okay, so it is officially due last day of classes. And the school has not notified me of any major changes with regards to timelines at the end, and largely that's because people do need to graduate and so on and so on. So get it done by next Wednesday, and make sure that you have shared, you've set up your share, you've already been pushing things up there so that I can see, I'd love to see progress. That's one thing. It probably took me more time to go through the grading this time because I had downloaded a lot of projects before people were done, and I had looked at previous versions, and then people added new versions, and so it was really great because I got to see a lot of really great progress, and I think that worked in a lot of people's behaviors, but it did wind up taking, I had to basically do everything at least twice, in some cases 3 times. But so let's try to get ahead of that one by Friday. I want to see a collab version. It was a design document. There was a requirement for a design document. I am relaxing that because I'm going to allow, if you've already done Project 3 and you've done well on Project 3, you can just, sort of do a demonstration of the various techniques. So I am relaxing the requirement on the design document. If you want, it's really good for your own purposes at this point, and it's a planning document. So I've been sort of just freestyling these games. The idea was so that I would know you could, the difference between what you set out to do and the version of what you actually in the end accomplished. Um, so, for example, it would be okay. I'm going to design a world that is typical platformer world. I'm going to have these two enemies, and one of the design parts of the design document was really going to be one side of a page. Normally, the way I've run it, one side of the page is just a simple drawing or screen capture or whatever. Of what the game is going to look like. Now, if you think you're going to be pressed for time, you should still do this. So maybe I should just ask everyone to do it. Draw everything out on a piece of paper. So you say, okay, this is what my level is going to look like. I'm going to need to put these things here. I have a map, so you're not just randomly painting stuff on the screen like I typically do in my demonstrations. And then the other side was going to be if you need to describe any behaviors, if you say, oh, okay, there's going to be certain types of traps, there's going to be certain types of enemies. So just a sentence about each kind of challenging piece about the mechanic, like one sentence saying, okay, the mechanics of the player is simple up, down, jump, fall. If you wanted to say, oh, simple up, down, jump, fall, and some sort of crouching or sneaking behavior. So kind of sketch that out. So put it on paper as opposed to just having it in your head. About one page would be describing the various actions in the game, the mechanisms that you need, and you can then use that as a checklist. You say, oh, okay, I'm going to have basic scoring based on time. You check that, you're done with it. Okay. So if you need that to get the project done, then please get it done that way. Normally, I guess I've relaxed this because normally I would like to go through and actually review it with people, and we just don't have the time right now for me to go in and really kind of review it. So I'm going to recommend you do it for your own purposes, and if you want to submit it, that's great. There is not a crouching tutorial. I can, if I get all the other basic things done, I will try to go ahead and put a crouching tutorial. There's lots and lots of different ways to do it. You can certainly modify your player on the fly, or you can sort of turn your player on and off, or it could just be another animation that also builds in a scale on your collider. So it's not too tricky to do, but maybe I'll try to sneak a tutorial in on that one. Climbing is a little bit trickier because climbing involves bumping onto the other side. So officially for Project 4, normally there is a one-page design. Well, ideally there's no difference. The design document becomes the summary, Kathy. So ultimately, if you've done a design document, just submit that, and I will assume that is the summary. So that's fine. You can kill both of those trolls with one stone. That's also a good idea. I like that. So yes, if you've done a design document, that will stand in for a summary because it will be a summary. Okay. Normally, I like to get the design document ahead of time, so because we'd have more time to work one-on-one, and it's much easier for me to walk around a classroom full of 26 people than it is to kind of track people down and find what time they're available and so on online, and everything just takes a lot more time online. So I will recommend that you go through the process yourself. You can do it, literally just grab a piece of paper, or if you do feel comfortable working on a document, sketch it, then take a picture. This is normally what happens. Grab a piece of paper, draw your level out, scribble in, doesn't have to be high-level art, scribble in some, where you want the different platforms. Oh, I want a moving platform over here. Oh, I want a swinging mace over here. Oh, I want a fountain over here. Put those things in. Oh, there's going to be an eagle that drops things over here. Oh, there's going to be a conveyor belt over here. Scratch those things out on a piece of paper, and then either in a document or on the other one, then in a sentence about each of the trickier things in there. You don't have to describe where every block is, but you say, okay, well, what do I need for this thing up here? That's the eagle. And so eagle does this, does that, does this. So it's really just meant to be a working document, so you can say, all right, these are the things I'm going to do, and then you can kind of check mark through each thing and get it done. So this will be very, very good for those of you who need that extra level of kind of discipline to kind of go through and get it done for the week. So as I say these things out loud, the more I want to say, okay, yeah, I should require you to do that. But I know people are giving too much flexibility here. Um, hopefully, we never ever in the history of game development again will have to go through a quarantine version of, well, up as we go. We're going to obviously this summer. Anyway, now you got me rambling. Okay, so it is highly recommended that you do your summary, one-page design document and summary before handing it in at the end, right? This way you'll get your game done. Trust me, it'll be better. I will have another tutorial where I will do this myself, actually. So if you want to follow along, I'll do that. Okay, I'm going to sign off on my rambling part so that you can concentrate on the other parts, and I will go back and make a tutorial on 15 minutes to design a game, something like that. All right, if there's no more questions, I'm going to turn off my screen and wait for, oh wait, I've got some new unreads up in general. Oh, it was telling me I had unread messages, but I guess those are the ones that we've already seen. All right, everybody. I will turn off my screen here. I'm still talking though.